the Research Director at HighForce Research in Durham, just near Durham. I'll tell you more about HighForce later on. So what we're going to tell you about is a project which I think contrasts quite nicely with some of the stories we've heard so far, because this is a project that really started off actually in academia, and we were looking in a way to commercialise and partner after a long period of really quite basic research. So I'm going to give you a bit of an outline story of what happened to us, and then I'll talk about where we collaborated and built a long-term, I think, relationship with HighForce on the project. So it relates to developing VOC-free cross-linking technologies for emulsion polymerization systems. And it started off really as an absolutely basic research project. It was funded by EPSR, series of EPSRC project grants. And at the time, I was based in Manchester, and now I'm in Durham University. And of course, Manchester has fused with UMIS, where I started out. It's become quite a complex project to handle because, as many of you will know, in the commercial area, having one university in a project can be interesting. To have two can be even more interesting. And so this is a research project that, despite two universities and now a number of commercial organisations as well, we've been able to manage through to the point where we're trying to spin out and commercialise the technology. So. Just to give you a quick idea, as I just mentioned, it's about developing VOC-free cross-linking systems. So it was a project that was born out of changing legislation and the need to find novel solutions in a market area which wasn't really perhaps prone to finding completely novel solutions or necessarily finding the funding to do it. It resulted in some patented technology that came out of the university. And at that point, we were looking for commercial partners in a number of different areas. And I'm going to talk about this in more detail later on. But as you can probably guess, we needed to be able to do development work, we needed to be able to do scale-up and routinely supply in parallel with testing and continuing to develop the technology and the basic science. So really, what we were looking at, to give you an idea of where we started from, the project was really driven by environmental needs, and in the area of particularly coatings, paint coatings, emulsion-based coatings in particular, there was a need really to find, for these sorts of applications of adhesives and inks, environmentally friendly systems, coating systems. And as mentioned at the bottom here, this project is a few years old now. There was an imminent danger of very, very tight legislation being brought into place that would have probably meant that many paint companies would have almost had to remove most of their products from your corner DIY stores. And so those threats, I think, have been softened off to a certain extent, and certainly the timescale has been stretched out hugely over the last few years. But it was that threat of, and across North America and Europe and Japan, it really meant there was a need to look for new solutions for VOC, non-VOC containing coating systems. So it was that really drove this project. But as a result of the project as a whole, as I want to mention, we started to think much more generically about the processes of cross-linking technologies, the sorts of things we might be able to do, the kinds of chemistry we might be able to bring to bear to solve problems. So that was really what it was about. So the origin of the technology in terms of the immediate early stage sort of applications and ideas were in the area of emulsion polymer-based coatings. So these are systems which are normally, or you would hope to be, waterborne. So these are basically sort of bundles of polymer material. You coat them on the wall. Most of you look at the wall here. This is an emulsion-based coating system where the particles of polymer are not cross-linked. They're essentially held there by very moderately weak interactions. And so on the inside of a building, it's not a problem. On the outside of a building, they will wash off very quickly. So if you wanted to use emulsion polymer-based coatings, which are much more mechanically stable, you need a way of chemically cross-linking them. The way that's traditionally done is by using solvent-based coatings, and of course there's a huge associated emission of volatile organic compounds during the drying and cross-linking process. So we wanted to develop a system that was waterborne, based on emulsion polymerization systems, would be a one-part system, so you wouldn't need to mix anything from two different tins just before you apply them. It would be a one-part base of pre-formulated system. It has to be chemically robust, so you not only could use it for internal uses, you could also use it externally as well. Of course, there's no point in having a tin of any kind of paint or coating material if it cross-links whilst it's sitting in the tin. So you need it to not cross-link during storage, however long that might be. And of course, what we were interested in particular was that we wanted solely water to be eliminated, nothing else, no other kinds of volatile organic compounds, only water, because it was the only thing that we could think of would be entirely environmentally unacceptable. So, and the other thing, so this is quite a tough shopping list. We wanted these cross-linking systems to work at around room temperature, and hopefully even below. If you're painting a ship up in the northern Arctic waters, you might want to be painted to set at least eventually. So temperature was a key thing, and of course these coatings mentioned up here needed to be durable or mechanically stable. So you needed to understand how many cross-links you wanted per polymer particle, etc., to get robust coating. So these were the things that we were looking at, and actually what we developed was an idea really pinched on the dye industry, which was a number of years old, and I won't go into how old it is, but it was based on the idea that, as I mentioned before, only water would be eliminated during the cross-linking process. So we had to think a way of chemically engineering that into molecular chemistry. What we came up with was the idea that we had two complementary functional groups which would pre-attach onto a polymer chain built in by polymerization processes. In water, one of these functional groups, for example, this one, might not change, it stays unreactive, but during the process by which you coat the thing, it can lose water, it can change from being red to green, so it goes from being unreactive to reactive, and then it can cross-link, in this case, with the complementary blue functional group. So on paper, the idea was pretty straightforward. In practice, thinking how that molecular chemistry could be brought to bear took a bit of work. We looked at all sorts of different kinds of chemistries, and in the end, we found that hydroxyethyl sulfone chemistry, which had been used, as I mentioned earlier, in the dye industry for many years, seemed to fit the bill. So you can imagine that film formation is simply triggered by the drying process, and that process alone triggers functional group change and complementarity of reactivity. And so whilst the polymer particles are sitting in excess water, if this isn't being driven off, the equilibrium stays over this way, and there's no reaction. So you should have shelf-stable emulsion polymer systems. So that was the theory. We spent a lot of time developing chemistry, which I obviously won't go into and bore you with. But one of the first, exemplification molecules that really showed proof of concept was this compound that we now call HES, stands for hydroxyethyl sulfonyl styrene. Now, many of you who are chemists around will recognise this functional group as being styrene. Of course, this is one of the basic monomers in polystyrene. Excuse me. Any of you old enough to remember Tangerine Dream? That just sounds like So your styrene, we functionalise with a hydroxyethyl sulfonyl side chain. This is the functional group that stays hydrated in water, but eliminates water to form a reactive vinyl sulfone upon drying. So getting that chemistry to be complementary with the radical polymerization functional group took us a little bit of development, to say the least. But eventually we got it to work, and this compound we then needed to start making on multi-gram scale. Now, as organic chemists in a university laboratory, we could do that kind of scale of development. We developed various routes, some of which were less environmentally friendly than others, which again I won't go into. But importantly, we started to communicate with Highforce in particular, because we needed routine supplies. We also needed to work on developing cleaner and better routes towards this kind of monomer. And bear in mind that this monomer, we wanted it as a VOC-free and environmentally friendly monomer, so we really didn't want to be using nasty chemical technologies to make it that clearly fit the object. And in this case, originally we started off using ethylene oxide, and I'm sure some of you will blanch at the thought, if you know about ethylene oxide, that really that's something you just don't want to be using in a chemical process too often, and it's only the likes of BASF, people that kind of can handle this on a very large scale, and it's really not a very nice material. So together with high force, we not only needed to get a clean synthesis of this type of compound, but the other big problem was actually the cost side of things, because at this stage we had a solution to getting emulsion polymer-based systems to cross-link, using this as a cross-linking monomer, and we needed to be able to make it at a cost where the coatings industry would even begin to contemplate putting it into their emulsion systems. And so, with the routes that we started to look at for this particular monomer, we were looking at costings of around about £20 a kilo if we were lucky. And the problem is that the coatings industry over the last 15 years has still continued to have the same idea that a cross-linking monomer should cost no more than £5 a kilo. So we're a long way out to this. So we started working with high force, not only to try and get the cost of this down and routinely supply it, but perhaps think of other kinds of monomers that will do the same job and will do it at a lower production, projected production price as well. So that was a key. That wasn't me, So where we got to was basically looking. So as a result of the work that we did initially, we had an initial patent and we published some papers, but basically we still needed to develop alternative routes, not only necessarily to this molecule, but widening out the applications as well. And the reason for this was we could see a lot of benefits for not just this pest-type molecule, but things like it. We could already see at that point that we had very useful water-based coatings rather than solvent-based coatings. We could see that that technology advance was working. The paint companies were very interested in this technology. We could see enhanced performance from these types of systems. We had results that we could take to potential exploitation partners. And we realised that we'd done work with a number of different compatible functional groups, different polymer systems, and that was looking very promising as well. So where we were at that point, we needed to push the commercial advantage of these kinds of compounds a lot further, and particularly the fact that we could, with these sorts of compounds being water-based and one-part systems, they had absolutely no storage issues, they had absolutely no solvents of any kind, and no volatile organic compounds. So all the organic materials were completely polymerized into the particles. So we were looking at some very useful commercial advantages, which we thought were worth taking through. We took on a commercial director to work with us, helped by our tech transfer offices, and talking to high force in terms of the supply, and then going out to larger companies, coatings-based companies, to see if we could develop a range of pipeline products and formulations using this kind of chemistry. So at that point, we started to partner with high force. We were in a full development and commercialization project, and we were trying to develop new second-generation systems, and not just styrene-based systems, which I can't tell you about, but other based systems, other systems compatible with polymerization processes as well as the cross-linking technology. And we needed to be able to routinely produce and supply materials for polymerization testing, not only internally, so that we understood the mechanism of cross-linking, the loadings we needed to achieve cross-linking, so that we could essentially produce a manual for the coatings companies to follow, so they could apply this technology for their own formulations. But we needed to be able to make enough to supply to those companies, those larger scale coatings companies, so they could actually try this stuff out in anger. So we undertook a development project with High Force Research Limited just down the road, we already knew quite well, and jointly we took on a research project in which we were doing scale-up and routine supply, and High Force are today supplying multiple 100-gram quantities of these materials to the coatings companies. So we've been, and since then, as a result of this project, and a result really of a bonus of working with High Force, on this commercialisation project. So we've started thinking much more widely about the use of this cross-linking technology, and not only just limit it to the kinds of systems we're looking at the moment, the automobile systems, but other kinds of coatings as well. So, on that point, I'll hand over to Roy Valentine for making more noise than I will.
I'm Roy Valentine, I'm the Research Director of MyForce Research, and we're a small R&D, chemical R&D company in Durham, not very far away from the city of Durham. We specialise in chemical synthesis and R&D mainly, and our customers are mainly pharmaceutical companies, biotech and fine chemical industries. We're very skilled in scale-up and commercialisation of laboratory scale synthesis, and we've developed a number of processes that have gone on to become multi-ton processes. So my background is in the fine chemicals industry, where I've worked for the best part of 40 years now, sorry to say. So we've got a great deal of expertise in taking processes from the laboratory bench and taking them up to big scale. So Andy asked us a few years ago if we'd be interested in helping him develop the HEST material, which naturally we were more than happy to do. So we re-examined the process with a view to making it commercial, and we found that we got a better method of manufacture that was more cost effective, it used cheaper materials, we could scale it up quite well. We used much more volume efficient, so it looked to be quite a good process for making the, if it was to go into production, it would have been a much better process for doing it. We made multi 100 gram batches of the material that have gone into evaluation at Manchester University, and we've also supplied other companies as well to see if it works in their applications. We've also developed a second generation material that's we're just about to start evaluating it, but the economics of that will be an awful lot better, probably about £5 a kilo, we think, when it's gone into production. And that's just at the point now where we're just beginning to evaluate it. The METRC funding we got was very useful. They supplied us £10,000, we put in £20,000 in salaries and overheads. And we started the METRC process project July 2010, and it went on for 6 months. So the METRC certainly helped us develop the 100 gram samples for the evaluation, maybe we can get some more funding to help us on the phase 2 as well. Okay, so thank you.